Okay, we have a quorum. So I think we're going to get started. Tim, are you with us on this? Just want to make sure you were there, that's all.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. It looks like we have everybody present except for Director Yesvik as of right now. So I'm going to go ahead and call to order the February 15, 2021 meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. I'm going to have a roll call. Please state that you are here and the location, city, town that you're in currently right now for this meeting. So I will start with Director Brake.
Present, dialing in from Royal Oak.
Thank you. Director Rosbeck.
Present, Royal Oak.
Thank you. Director Luan.
Present, Royal Oak.
Thank you. Director Riley.
Present, Royal Oak.
Director Keith.
Present, Troy.
Okay. Director Yesvik, I see is now with us. Director, are you present? Please unmute yourself.
Present, Royal Oak.
Thank you very much. And I am present, and I am also in Royal Oak. Okay.
You
roll
forgot
call is
about me.
over. I'm sorry, Director London. I apologize for that.
I'm just happy that Director Keith is not in an island somewhere, but I am in Birmingham.
Thank you very much, Director London. I apologize for that. Okay, so we will move on. Tim or Carol, are we aware of any public comment today?
Yes, we had 3 calls for called into public comment, and I'm going to share my screen and play those for you.
Thank you.
You may want to push your volume.
My name is Laura Harrison, and I am a resident of Royal Oak since 1973. I am also a retired retail business owner, and my husband and I still own 3 buildings in the CBD. And a long time since the 1980s, financial contributor to the DDA. The DDA budget is what my call is about regarding the downtown park. I understand the cost for the park is over budget. While a downtown park is wanted, I think we need to pause. Downtown is still in the middle of a financial disaster, not caused by us. More assistance may be needed from the DDA. I drove around last week and was not surprised to find the sidewalks 80% unused and plenty of available street parking. Reminded me of 1983 when I opened the Ladybug at 519 South Washington, the Madrid building. During this recovery period, the DDA should consider what is best for the downtown and its building owners and building tenants. The park, I think, can wait a little longer. We have no idea what is coming down the pike. I am not against having a park within the CBD. I read the minutes from the infrastructure meeting, and I support their 7 bullet points in their motion, particularly point number 7, the Veterans Memorial. Thank you very much. My name is Laura Harrison, and I am a
Dr. Wallace Anderson, 404 Mount Vernon Boulevard, speaking to item 7.
First, the Veterans War Memorial's downtown park location. To comply with city ordinance, there is no doubt the Veterans War Memorial was intended to remain exactly where it is now. The DDA contributed some $108,000 to its move construction and was unanimously adamant that the Veterans War Memorial Park be permanent. The approved City Commission letter from October 17, 2005, incorporates this DDA resolution relative to the Veterans War Memorial placement south of the library. Be it resolved that the City Commission directs the City Attorney's Office and City staff to research the process and prepare the necessary documents to dedicate the proposed location as dedicated park property with restrictions to relocating the monument held in perpetuity. The City Commission unanimously approved this and directed the City Attorney to prepare appropriate ballot language, which I'll address another time. Today, my focus is the DDA's proposed additional financial support for the new park. In addition to the ordinance, financial considerations argue for leaving the Veterans War Memorial and Library entrance as they are now. The DDA has been asked for about $463,000 in addition to the $1.5 million it committed in 2020. It's a good 10% over the budget, which had already been reduced by deleting the water feature and restrooms, and almost 1/3 more than the DDA originally agreed to. And most large city projects, for example, the 11-mile parking garage, add during construction cost overruns. A pre-construction cost overrun such as this should trigger a redo of the plan for the park, not a request to obtain a large additional amount from the DDA or any other source. That's what I have to do as a homeowner when I plan a major project. An easy downtown park design cost-saving measure could leave the Veterans War Memorial and Library Terrace as is. The cost for redesigning the park would be considerably less. Further, it would support the DDA's recommendation for more green space. Number one, it would preserve much of the current green space rather than moving the memorial and surrounding it with hardscape. Second, it would preserve a genuine glade. The architect drawings labeled glade are false representation. The glade doesn't have large areas of flat green space hemmed in by hardscape. It's leafy with trees and shrubs among grass and limited number of sidewalks. It's a classic example of doublespeak. Please put a stay on allocating more money to the downtown park project. Please formally consult with your VFW constituency. They're part of the DDA. Please ask the task force to redo its plans to conform with financial realities and community priorities for green space.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Frank Hoberst calling for the DDA meeting. I know on today's agenda is discussion about the color of the Christmas lights, but I want to point out that for as much as color is interesting, the lights are not working for this year. And I don't know why, but South Washington seems to be the stepchild of the downtown. We have not had Christmas lights at all between 6th and 8th Street at all. Month of December, month of January, and they're not even working this month in February at all. It's sporadic. Half the intersection of 4th and Washington, half the trees are on, half the trees are off. So let's talk about getting the lights to work. We're spending $350,000 a year on lights, but they should work. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment that was called in for today.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes item number 3. I'm going to move on to item number 4, approval of the meeting minutes from January 20th, 2021. Director Rosbeck.
I move to approve the minutes.
Motion by Director Rosbeck. Second by Director Brake. Any discussions, deletions, or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Director Rosbeck,
Yes.
Director Brake,
Yes.
Director Lewan,
Yes.
Director Riley,
Yes.
Director London,
Yes.
Director Keith,
Yes.
Director Yazbek.
Yes.
Thank you. And I will vote yes also. Okay, item number 5, expense items, monthly expenses. Okay, I have one question from Director Riley.
Yeah, Sean, the consumer's energy, there's a 15,000 and a 7,000. Is that, that we paid up front to Yifty and then they pay, and then Consumers Energy reimbursed us? Is that the way that worked?
No, we sent them the check and then they deposited, or the 2 checks, and they deposited those, and then we went with the program.
Okay. So we sent Yifty the checks.
Correct.
So Consumers Energy sent us the check and then we sent Yifty a check. So in other words, there's a debit and credit for 22,000 on that, right? That's not 22,000 out of pocket. We were reimbursed that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we received the money from Consumers Energy first, and then it went through our accounts payable system. It actually was, it had to be approved by City Council because the number was so big, which is why it didn't get started until the beginning of February rather than early January.
Got it.
And then it accounts payable, the city's accounts payable department sent Yifty a check in that amount.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on the expense items? This is just for informational purposes. No action is needed. Seeing none, I will move on to item number 6, holiday lights, English Gardens. I think, Tim, you're probably best to lead us in on this one.
I'll start. Sterling Weber is on the call from English Gardens. The Infrastructure Committee did meet on this topic and provided a recommendation. Since that time, I also sent out what were updated materials from English Gardens. Basically, the committee had asked to recommend that all the lights be the same color. And initially, the plan called for different colors in the canopy than were trunk wrapped. That price in one scenario did not change, and in the other scenario, it had a different cost to it. So the committee reviewed the materials that were in your packet, and what Sterling put together and I sent out via email was a cleaning up of the plan or the map that was associated with it. And then option B, which would be to wrap the canopies and the trees in the same color versus just standard all being white. So I can let Sterling walk through his packet and what the proposal was based on the committee. The last item I would point out, he did provide a price quote for the community tree, the holiday tree. The board may recall that DDA allocated $5,900 last year and ended up costing a little under $4,200 to light the tree that's in front of the courthouse in the circular drive area. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to Sterling, and then if there's any questions, we'll go through them.
Yeah, so thank you. Essentially you have 2 separate proposals. One going to winter white lights throughout the city. That proposal is a little bit, it's similar to what we did this past 2 years, because the lights in the canopies of the trees will stay up year round. You can leave them on throughout the summer months as well, with the trunks being in the same winter white, so it matches throughout. The other proposal that we have there is different color lights, so Caribbean blue and a green, which the trees would be wrapped. The difference with that one is the lights go up and down every season or every year with the season as the holiday season starts and ends. So that's the main difference between the two proposals that you're looking at. Coverage is the same. We're going to be able to reuse the garland that we have. It is out of warranty, but it still looks fairly good. I think we'll be able to get one more season out of it. The biggest thing that we see with greenery in the city is the salt from the roads tend to corrode all the wires in it. And then the branches start to fall off and then they start to look really thin. We ran into that with the swags that we did a couple of years ago. But again, we can get another year out of them and I think they'll still look really nice, still look really good. And that's kind of the overall view of everything. What questions?
Okay, hang on, Sterling. We'll just hang on with us. I have a couple questions for you, but I want to get clarity for the rest of the board so that there's a good understanding. Our discussion at the infrastructure committee when looking at these two proposals was that if we went with the second option of the colored lights, those lights would not remain all year round, would not be on during the summer. And secondly, on those options, we'd have a much higher labor cost for taking them up and down and storing and whatever. Am I stating that correctly?
That is 100% correct.
Okay. So also for the rest of the board, the infrastructure looked at both of these proposals and felt it important enough that we not select one, that we bring it directly to the board for discussion. And, we could make the decision at that point. We do have to move on this pretty soon because of the time frame for English Gardens. So that being said, I'll open up the floor. I see a couple hands. I'm going to go with Director Riley first.
Yeah, Sterling, quick question. What we had this year, if I'm not mistaken, was we went with the white lights in the trees, so we left them up and we wrapped the trunks in color. And we did that because of the labor factor. A two-part question, I guess. And am I correct that the way I'm seeing these, that these are either all white that stay up all year, or including trunk and canopy, or all color that go up and come down, trunk and canopy? Is that the way these are? Or am I
close? It's close. So you got the colored trees, the ones with color, correct. The winter white ones, the trunks will still come down. They'll go up at the beginning of the season, come down at the end of the season. That's really due to concerns about vandalism, because we see a lot more vandalism on stuff during the summer months when people are out, So the trunks will be unlit during the summer months, but the canopies will still have lights in them.
Okay, so it's not out there, but I guess, an option C could be to go with what we did this year, which would be lights up top, white and colored trunks wrapped that come down, and that would be the same labor, I would assume, as it would be if it was all white, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and and I would guess the price would be around the same.
It'll be the same pricing.
Okay.
So that does throw another option out there.
Well, throw some color into it.
Yeah. Director Rosbeck, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, I think Director Riley covered some of it. I guess I was trying to understand what would really be the difference if they were all white. It sounds like the trunks would either come down in the summer months, so only the canopies would be up. And so I guess I was looking at this as how much differentiation would we have at Christmas time versus all year round. So as long as the trunks are not glowing, I kind of like the all white opportunity. I think the all white lights would be good. I do have concerns based on the public comment that maybe our lights aren't working as well as they should be, but I think that can be looked at or investigated. But I like the idea of having canopies all year round. that's a nice change.
Thank you. Director London.
What happened to the big orbs, Sterling?
Those went away a couple of years ago. They just weren't working any longer.
We had some that we kept reusing, did we not?
Yeah, it was, we pushed them as far as we could. I think we had them for about 5 years.
And do
Which
you have a design team in English Garden that goes to like Atlanta, the shows and comes up with new, like there's nothing really innovative in this plan.
Mhm.
So is there any, do you have a design team that actually goes to the shows and sees what's new and innovative in city lights?
Yep, we do. We send, oh geez, I want to say 8 to 10 people every year. This year we didn't though, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I didn't go to a show either.
We decided not to send
But
any.
I mean,
Yeah,
of
we
course I
can-
like city lights, but this just seems like a very uninspired city plan.
Mhm.
But
So the
kind of weird.
back a little bit based on, I think it was Shirley at the infrastructure committee meeting was looking for a little bit more toned back color scheme. And so we toned it back a little bit. You know, there are lights with twinkle in there for the ones with the color trees. So they have a little bit of movement to it, a little bit something different. You know, the idea of kind of toning it back this year is once the park is ready to go, really focusing energy on that space. And I know it might not be this year, it might be next year. You know, that was kind of the reasoning behind toning it back just a touch.
It's still a very pricey proposal. And my second question is, with the caller's concern, was it the DTE electrical issue with the pole, or was it the lights were failing?
It's with the pole. Yeah, we have found the lights that you guys have out there with the 2-year lights and the canopies, they've worked phenomenally. We've had very few issues with them. We did run into problems with the light posts being new, of things getting unplugged when they're replacing them. So, and I'm not sure on Washington south of 6th, that gets a little dicey with the power down there because we don't know exactly which transformer that comes off of, which switch it comes off of, because it's different than everything north of there.
Well, that's something that we need to look into then.
Okay.
The south end of Washington is becoming more vibrant with more activity.
Yeah, it is.
Right. I have two hands. Mike, did I see your hand? Or were you just stretching there a little bit?
Yep. Just
Okay, thank you. Director Riley.
Yeah, so I guess it's interesting, and I noticed that yeah, a lot of the garland wraps on the poles all throughout the winter would be out, sometimes blocks at a time. Tim, I don't know if us replacing all the poles this summer, if that addresses that or not, if the outlets are changed, or if you know, I know we cleaned up everything on 4th Street between the tracks and Main in that area in Washington. But I'm not sure if that's going to clean that up or not. And I guess it's kind of, to me, it looks like our decision right now is to decide, do we have a flavor for going, we've accurately addressed the labor issue, which we did last year by leaving the lights up in the canopies and just doing the wraps at the bottom, which in watching these guys install them, there's far less labor involved and less cost involved. So the question is, do we just want to go all white? Which again, I kind of agree with. I think one of the comments was that it doesn't differentiate much for the holidays. I think, you know, I mean, I guess it's up to the individual or people and what you hear, whether you like the color or not, or do we add some color at the trunks? Yes, the garlands do add some color, although it's not as evident. You know, you don't see it from as far away, and it doesn't light up the street as you're walking down the street, and you're running into the issue of things getting unplugged and things not working and what have you. So I don't know. I mean, Tim, will the new light post, will that help in that manner, or was that strictly decorative and not electrical?
Well, it'll help in some locations, in that the poles in some locations were replaced, as well as the light fixtures. We did not replace any underground feeds to poles because, again, it was just the pole being replaced. So
right,
if there's a problem between the transformer and the feed to the pole, then no, it wasn't addressed. And that was a totally separate issue, or will be a separate issue. On 4th Street, the street was dug up, sidewalk was dug up.
Right.
New lines were put in because the conduit had collapsed and corroded, and so you couldn't pull any new lines through it. So it depends on the location, what the issues are. And it's almost a trial, or DPS got to go out and figure it out. So,
And I agree with Director London that it should get looked at. The only cause for pause I have is that literally we were having this discussion a year ago, and we're right back at it. And you know, I'm not sure where the ball was dropped, but that wasn't taken care of. So again, I go back to, but it seems to me, and Chair Safai, you're the chair of the Infrastructure Committee, but it seems to me that, you know, it's a choice of, do we want to go with some color? You know, we can either go all color, all white, or if we want to watch the labor, then we can do what we did last year and wrap the trunks and white the canopies and leave the canopies up.
Right. So I just want to make clarity on the infrastructure here. I think what the consensus on the Infrastructure Committee was that, yes, we would maintain the canopy lights on the top. Yep. And those would remain up year round. So that was kind of straight across the board. The only other discussion was whether we were going to go one color white as we brought it down the tree, or whether we would change to a different color as we brought it down the tree. So that's where we brought that back to the table. Gotcha. And that's where we are right now.
Gotcha.
We just, again, we felt, you know, the labor, the cost, and the fact of having the lights up all year round was a nice feature.
Mm-hmm. So, which means the canopies will be white, because if
means the canopies will be white. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think I saw Director Rosbeck's hand.
Yeah, I guess I was going back to Director Riley's comment. I mean, the idea that we could have a canopy all year round as white and not have to pay for, you know, bringing it up and bringing it down, to me is appealing. I agree with you that the trunks could definitely be rethought as being colorful or change it up every season, since those have to come up or come down. But I think the adding the canopy to the summer nights is a really great idea.
Thank you. Director Yazbek.
I would also submit that the all-year canopy makes a lot of sense. It brightens the downtown. That's a good thing. The lower part of the trunk of the tree, I think, to maybe make it a little colorful for Christmas, to, you know, so it indicates that it's a special time of the year. It would be nice also, but I have to agree with Director London. For this kind of inspiring money, is there any opportunity to explore something, you know, a little more impactful for the
yeah, I think I think there is an opportunity. Again, part of the Sterling was correct, and part of the infrastructure thought process as we've been discussing this was, we knew the park was going to come into play at some point, and we knew kind of a new design plan was going to have to be created. And we felt like that maybe could be incorporated throughout the city and have an overall plan, and then be able to possibly include the park into our budget and so forth. So I think that was the plan prior to last season. And that's why we just did the status quo last season of what we had done in previous years. So I think we can have the discussion with English Gardens about moving forward. Hang on. Let me go with let me go with Mr. Twing first, and then I'll come to you.
I think, or what you want to look at a little bit too is the schedule sheet that Sterling put out. Last year, we were able to simply spend $60,000 on it because we did not buy any new lights.
Correct.
That's where the primary savings was at last year. You'll see that most years when you're buying lights, the cost is more on it. So we're going to have to spend some design on it. And I think what the committee, the infrastructure committee, was looking at was just continuing what we had basically done last year through this year. And obviously we've got to buy more lights. And that's the rush is in order to, for English Gardens to acquire those, they kind of need an answer before we go too far. And at the committee level, the discussion was yes, and I think the board's talking about leaving the canopy lights up, sounds like the consensus. And then the only type of light that's available to leave in the canopy year round are the white ones. There was no choice to put color ones up in the canopy. And some of the committee members felt it might be a good look to do it all in one design, and that's where it got into discussion of doing all white or doing color. The downside to the color was having to take them down, but
Tim, the way I understood it, Sterling, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we wrap the trunks in white, we still have to take them down because of, right?
just the trunk.
Yeah.
Just the trunk.
And last year we did the canopies white and the trunks in color.
Right. And took them down.
Took the trunks down and left the canopies up.
Right. And so the price for white on white is the same as the price for white on color.
Correct.
So
correct. Okay.
So I guess the question would be, does the board wish to kind of maintain the status quo of what we did last year, keep the canopy lights and wrap the trunks in colored? Or would they like to see the change and the entire downtown be completely winter white? Director Riley.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, personally, I like the color, and I like what Director Yesbick says, that it sets out the Christmas season. And I kind of, and I agree with Director London that I really liked, you know, when we were really doing some neat stuff and being innovative, and then I'll agree with what others have said, that, you know what, maybe let's just get through this year and then get to the park and then really kick some butt, and because, you know, that adds a whole new feature to it. So I'd hate to go out and spend money on a new 3-year item now and go, oh geez, why didn't we wait a year, because this will look better in the park because it's an open space, what have you, and go more with the theme. And I guess, you know, I think I hear people, let's just say when we did the orbs and the different colors, people really loved that, and part of it was because you could see it from so far away, and part of it was because of the orbs, but I think a large part of it too was the colors and the changing of the colors. So, you know, and again, it's personal preference, and everybody's got one, and I just think, you know, Christmas, you got, you know, colorful lights and what have you.
Okay, so I think to move this along or to conclude this, I think if Director Riley, would you mind putting that in the form of a motion, and then we'll see if there's any further discussion, and if not.
Sure. I would move basically to recreate basically what we did last year with the warm white lights in the canopies and twinkling colored, I think Caribbean lights is what they were for the trunks that will come down at the end of the year. And then, you know, everything else that's in the proposal with regard to the garlands and what have you.
Okay. Motion by Director Riley.
I'll second it.
Second by Director London. And I know this is a minuscule point. I just want to make clear that Director Riley used the word warm white, and there is a warm white and there's a winter white, and it's been fully recommended to us that we go with the winter white as part of the warm.
Winter white.
Okay.
And one other thing, and I don't know whether we put it in the motion or if we have to or not, but the budget for this year, we kind of left what we did last year. So we've got 61,000 in there, which was just because that was labor only and we didn't have material. And we knew last year that we had material come and due this year. So I don't know whether we got to fix that or just let it rip.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote here. Roll call vote. Director Riley?
Yes.
Director London,
Yes.
Director Keith,
Yes.
Director Yesbeck,
Yes.
Director Brake,
Yes.
Director Rosbeck,
Yes.
and Director Luan.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item. We've got a big agenda today. Item number 7, Centennial Commons. I think I'm going to, I don't know where we want to go with this. Tim, you want to lead us in, or Director Brake? Or we're probably going to need comments from both of you, I would expect.
Sure. Since I wrote the memo, I guess I'll start with it. Hopefully you all received the communication I sent out this afternoon with some additional information from the construction team. What the infrastructure committee had looked at and was recommending was that the board fund the base park construction, which in the memo indicated the shortfall based on the bids and the value engineering was some $462,934. Based on the information that went out this afternoon, there are some updated figures on that I'll probably either let Paul or Tom Anderson, who is on the call from Colasani, kind of walk that the change in that through. So the committee was recommending that the board fund that shortfall, subject to the city commission completing what was the planned water feature. And that was what really came out of the committee. So with that, I'll kind of stop and see if either Tom or Paul want to add comments on the revised numbers that came out today.
I can start on that. So we've asked Colasani to conduct an evaluation of the bids that were submitted. Initially, when this discussion began, when the bids were submitted, I want to say, Tom, was it mid-December when that originally came in? And based on the initial dollar amount, the thought process of the consultant was thinking that we would not include those ad alternatives. And when the discussion turned, when there's serious discussion that yes, in fact, we do want to complete them, and with a higher priority with the water feature, that there was an analysis that was done of the bidders and whether or not their bids were complete and complied with the specifications that were set forth. And as a result, the lowest bidder had certain infrastructure elements. These are all underground items that would not work or were deficient, that were left out of the bid. So through the evaluation, Colasani is now recommending the next lowest bidder, but yet it is an additional cost that's associated with that. And it appears that this new company would be better suited to build this type of feature because you get into drainage and there's footing support and there's some pretty important infrastructure elements to what we're constructing here. So as a result, there was some value engineering where we did make some significant reductions. But yet there are some things that are needed to add in to be sufficient. Here's what my biggest take is on this, and this part's important. I'd rather have a company that understands what they're doing, not to low bid the project only to come back with change orders, as opposed to saving a few on the front end and then later on having to deal with during the course of construction that those specifications will not work or that there's operation and maintenance issues. So I don't like cost increase like anyone else does, but I think that we need to build this right. And this is where this is coming about. So that we have a lot of moving parts here, and Colasani O'Brien has been working diligently on finishing up the police station. So Tom Anderson, he's been juggling a lot of plates lately. So it's as this information comes about, and we're at a critical function here. Coming up in, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks, and Tom can verify this, the bids that we have will expire. So it is an essence of, we've been looking at this in a lengthy period of time. So by putting something off and to rebid this out, thinking that we're going to get a cheaper amount, I would tend to doubt that. And here's the reason why. In the world of construction, prices are going up. There's a shortage of lumber. There are materials that have additional tariffs on them. There are labor shortages that are going on. There's a lot of dynamics that are occurring. The other element is that we are, obviously, if you watch the national news, we're slowly coming out of the pandemic. There is a record amount of construction that's going on in the community here with Baker College, and there's an umpteen number of projects that you can look about. And so we're going to be competing with the same labor pool. So I want to underscore that now's the time to make that decision. It's been quite a journey to come up with numbers like this. Last but not least, I can tell you an experience from doing a major park construction project. The last job that I was at, I did a very similar park development project just like this, that had equal amount of difficulty, equal amount of stakeholders, certain individuals not approving. So I've been there before and understand this. So I want to provide that kind of that level of reassurance of my involvement with the park project. But I'll turn that over to Tom, who can give you a little bit more of the details. But I wanted to underscore kind of some important elements. Where are we at? Where do we get here? Why is this what it is? And where we go from here.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. And, I have to probably start out by apologizing because initially when we looked at the project, we knew that the low bid for the landscaper was deficient with the water feature. However, because we went through and did so much value engineering, immediately we removed the restrooms and the water feature from the project. So with those gone, the low contractor was still low, and therefore we didn't have a good basis for I don't want to say discounting or removing their bid because it was a part of the project that wasn't going to happen, at least in the value engineering perspective of things. When you came back with the decision that, which I think is a great decision, by the way, I love the water feature portion of the project. To add the water feature, we immediately went back to the low contractor and said, hey, guess what? We've got a problem now, and you need to, you need to honor your bid. Essentially trying to force them into a situation where they would agree to do the project. It's a significant amount of money. It's $230,000 that they were that they had missed. And it was a human error on their part, but again, they provided a bid that was supposedly qualified and matched the scope of work that we had asked them to bid. And again, they didn't provide that. They have not returned our call yet as of today to tell us which direction they're going to go, but I can almost guarantee you that they're not going to go in the direction of eating $239,000. And to be honest with you, in my experience, I've been doing this almost 30 years. We probably don't want them to try to do that because they'll just try to cut corners every place else and find problems and issues. Everything they do will have a price tag on it. That'll be a problem. And then not only that, but then you're dealing with a contractor who is a major key part of the project, who's really coming into it with, some bitterness and, we're just not going to get as nice of a project out of it. So with that, we made the suggestion to go with the second bid, which was qualified. We typically will qualify the two low bids when we are evaluating a project like this through the bid process. We did that. They do have a complete bid, and they've done some work around here for us already on the City Hall project as well as the connectivity project. They're very excited about the project. They want the job, obviously, but again, they weren't low. So there are some different options that we can go with. Like Paul stated, we could probably go out for rebid on the entire project, which I think would be a real problem because it would hold us off, and it would extend the project timeline, which runs into problems with general conditions and things like that. We could award everything but the landscaping package and go out to bid with the landscaping package. Again, I know that this is something that Plant Moran and myself have been discussing today. We could do that. I think that out of any options that's been discussed today, that's probably, besides just going with the second lowest bid, is probably the more realistic option. The problem with that, again, is like Paul stated, prices are going up. Labor is getting more and more difficult to find. And we're going to be reaching, a part of the industry right now is gearing up for spring. So a lot of the landscapers are loading up their workload right now for spring projects. It's a crapshoot. We could get a good number. We could get a better number. But I think the likelihood is probably that we get even a higher number than what we got originally. Just because people are busy and they've already started to structure their spring work and summer work. So it's kind of where we're at right now. I don't know if I answered any questions, try to clear things up at all, but I'm more than willing to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Just for point of clarification, before I get to the board members here, the landscaper would be 100% in charge of the entire water feature, or is that a dual project with the construction company?
They are, the way that their scope of work was specified for the landscapers they were to include the actual water feature itself. So they would have the brick pavers, and they would have the actual piping of the water feature. The concrete guy would have the foundations, things like that, the pits. But they were supposed to carry the number for the actual water feature itself, and that's the number they did not carry. They carried the pavers. Their excuse to me was that they didn't receive the number from the water feature specialist on bid day. I find that kind of hard to believe since other people received that bid as well. So I'm not quite sure why he didn't. I personally don't think that he reached out to them to get it. So
okay, and then I just have one more point, and then I'm going to get to the board members here. I know they have some questions. Director Brake, if you would, please. So previously, the board, in its discussions, were considering 3 different budget figures. One concerning the shortage of the construction, one concerning the water feature, one concerning the restrooms. Where are we at today? So we're just talking about the number based on the water feature. Is that correct?
Correct.
Am I stating myself correctly?
Yes, you are. Yeah, to my understanding, and Tom can correct me if I'm wrong, the number that was quoted for the bathroom as designed, that number has been confirmed.
That's correct.
Okay, so the only change to what the board previously looked at least at the committee level, would be to the water feature number.
Oh, and the base bid.
That and the base figure.
And it's an additional 300 grand
Okay,
from what we were already presented.
I got you. Okay,
60 on the base and 238 on the water feature.
okay. Okay, so.
Well, for clarity,
the number of-
wait a minute, the clarity of the base bid changed too.
Yeah.
Correct, right.
Okay. I know we have a number of hands here. Director Riley.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm going to have a few questions, and I'm not sure if Tom or Director Brake are better for these, but I just need to clarify. I want to clarify some things. One thing, in going through this draft page that was submitted to the committee, I noticed there's about close to $370,000 in total contingencies fees. Construction manager, owner, construction, owner contingency. So, I guess, Tom, you're probably better to ask this. I mean, is that something that we think covers some of this stuff?
Well, the contingencies are typically used for unforeseen conditions that pop up. And because this is a park and because there's a lot of underground work that needs to take place, it's not something that I would bank on having available to cover that.
Okay.
Shortfall. We may at the end of the project, but again, God forbid we find a tank or something like that, right? That nobody knows about.
Yeah, I would concur with that in the park project that I work on. That would make me really nervous to scale back the contingency. I think Tom's right.
Okay.
It's not a matter of if, but when.
Okay, Director Riley.
Yeah, and I apologize, Chair Safai. I've got about 3 or 4 more questions.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. Let's get them answered right now.
Well, the water feature, and I'm just speaking for myself. When I saw this presented as an option / alternative, that was news to me. I always thought this was included in the park. I wasn't in the meetings. I know there were members from the board that were in the park committee meetings. I thought that this was presented in those meetings to the public, and from what I understood, this was the number one thing that the public was the public's favorite feature, probably not only of just the park, but probably of the entire city center project. I mean, I think this, and I understand that these bids expire in 2 to 3 weeks, but this park is, outside of the people, the police department, everything like that. For the general public, I think this park is the quote unquote jewel of this whole thing. So I think we gotta, I don't want to miss deadlines like anybody else, but I think we want to do it right. And I'm just a little surprised that the water feature is an option. I always thought that was included all along in the park and was the main factor of the park.
Well, I can jump into that. So here's this whole discussion has been an evolution. And when the discussion over the summer leading up to putting out the bid, there were some very preliminary estimates that were put together by the park designer, by MKSK. And those numbers were reconciled through Colasani as well as Cressa Plant Moran. And it was anticipated that this scenario was going to come about. And so the thought was, let's set this aside, and it wasn't a policy sort of decision. It was more a project budget management decision. Regardless, Director Riley, everyone would concur with you. And in my conversations with the individual city commission, they want to see this happen. They want the water features. So it's an exercise of where we look at where can we make revisions to the budget. And, I commend Tom and as well as the trades and contractors. They made some pretty significant reductions in the value engineering. And it's a matter of how can we make this project work? So, we're talking a difference of 600,000 as opposed to 2 million is really what we're looking at, originally. So we're narrowing down the gap, and it's a matter of kind of, how do you wrap your mind around this? So this was more of an internal exercise. So it was never meant to that no, we're going to exclude this. And, you know, if we're truly in that dire situation, then yeah, you could look at maybe constructing that later on down the road, but that thing would be considerably that much more expensive based on mobilization costs and not having the underground infrastructure. So
Absolutely. The next question I had was on this draft. There's $68,000 in there for a building permit. I mean, I'm kind of shocked to see that this, you know, this is a city project, and I would assume, I don't understand why the city would be paying a permit on their own project.
So let me answer that question. So the Tim Twing and his department does not have the authority to waive building permit fees. That can be done at the city commission level. We haven't fully explored that, and I've thought of that same thing, but it's not something that you can readily count on. So in the grand scheme of things, you know, we need to make sure that the commission even is within that legal authority, because these are things that go back to a state enabling legislation. So in that respect, for a placeholder, I would keep it in there for now. But if it's something where we can plug those dollars back in there, absolutely.
Okay. And I guess the point where I'm most confused is in going through this, you know, I'm seeing various top line, if you will call it, original budget numbers. And, you know, at one point it was, it looks like, you know, somewhere in the 3 millions, and then it was 3.9, and then we added in 1.5. I guess here's where I'm most confused. We started out the DDA way back when all this began, and we went into these projects, and we put forth a commitment for bonds based upon, I think it was based upon the park, the parking structure, and then the infrastructure, excluding the Boji development. We were not going to handle that. And I can't remember exactly what the number was, but I think it was somewhere around 9 million or north of 9 million. And we earmarked 5 million for the park. We wanted to make sure that we had a nice park, so we earmarked 5 million. Subsequent to that, it was brought to us, and I can't remember how many months ago, that there was an issue with quote unquote library terrace, and that needed to be done at the same time. And so we ponied up another 1.5 million. So the DDA has earmarked $6.5 million for the park alone. And I don't see any budget that starts off anywhere near 6.5 million. I mean, if I look at it, if the budget started at 6.5 million, we'd be able to do all this stuff after the value engineering and wouldn't need money from anybody else.
If you're directing that question at me, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think we're talking, Director Riley, we're talking different buckets of money. So,
Okay.
Well, I'll jump into that. I'll jump in and see if I can get to it. If I recall, the connectivity area, which was the streetscape area that's to be constructed yet, and the park. The parking deck was not part of it because the parking deck was funded under revenue bonds. So the 11-mile parking deck is not any part of that dollar amount that was originally allocated out of the bond sale. And Director Riley's right. It's probably in the neighborhood of 10 million that was originally budgeted for all of those activities that was split out. And there is an agreement written between the DDA and the city in terms of the DDA's agreement to fund the annual debt service on that portion of the bond sale. And that agreement's been put together and it's laid out. I believe the discussion at the time was that at least 5 million of the bond sale revenue would go towards the park. And it defines what that includes. It included demolition, it included a bunch of other things. In the way it's laid out, and without quoting the actual number, I believe that the 3.9 million was what was actually park construction cost, was consistent with the terms and the definition in that agreement. The other items were covering other things that were in the agreement, but we can definitely forward that out again at some point.
Yeah, it looks to me like
But
the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But the DDA didn't contribute $5 million, so there's not $6.5 million for revenue in it. It's the bond sale and at least a portion of the bond sale is contributing to that. And I believe that's still there at the 3.9, almost 4 million. I believe some of the other items that were in there were the demolition cost at 800,000 and some other things that were included. So the 5 million base bid construction is kind of consistent with that. But anyways, and then the $1.5 million was related to the park plan when it came back, showing that the concept was to do the library terrace as a second phase, and they weren't going to design it. They were just going to do phase 1, which was south of the steps, is when the DDA said, no, let's do it all together. And that was the extra, that was the actual funding amount of $1.5 million. To go back to the debt service real briefly, your payment of $737,000 annually is covering those debt service dollars.
I see here where the demo is coming out of the 3.9, so that drops it to 3.1. Let me just say this: a lot has happened in the last 24 hours. Obviously, with us just getting this email, which takes the water feature up to $621,000, which just it blows my mind. And a lot of this is fairly new. I know we're working on a time constraint. I'm like everybody else. I'd love to get the park done, but the DDA in my 7 years has never committed this much money to anything, let alone the fact that I personally, and that's just, it's all these numbers, I'm having trouble finding at least $1 million of it. I would like to, if we could take some time as soon as possible to sit down with the powers that be and whoever can answer questions, and we figure out just exactly what we've got going here. I don't know if it's the infrastructure committee. I don't know if it's part infrastructure, part business marketing. And then we call another DDA meeting ASAP to approve whatever we come back with, because a lot of this stuff is new. And I think the park is too important. And the DDA, we have too much skin in the game to not know all the answers. And I'm not saying there's any answers being hidden. I'm just saying we don't know the answers because this thing has gone so fast and there's so many different parties involved. It's kind of hard for us to wrap our arms around it.
Okay.
Matt, where are
Let me
you?
go around it. Hold on here. Let me go around the table here and get some more comments from other board members. And we'll keep everybody intact right now. Director Rosbeck, did you have something that you wanted to add at this point?
I agree with Director Riley. I'm just trying to understand, though, between the committees, why business marketing would need to be involved in terms of that. I think we just need to get some of this material prior to the meeting, more than just a couple hours. I do think there's a lot of background information that just wasn't given to us enough to look at this. And I guess based on the new map, I wasn't sure where the new water feature was going comparatively to the, to the star fountain. So I just wanted to understand, that a little better, because again, I think in previous drawings, it was across the way from the star JC or the star fountain. But, is there some opportunity there where we wouldn't want it to be that far away? I get that, but I'm not trying to replan the park, but I do think that there needs to be some more conversation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Twing, did you want to answer the one question about the location?
Well, I believe the location is kind of towards 3rd Street, about in the middle. There's a diagonal there, and I believe it's been kind of in that location for quite a period of time. If you go back to the glades that I believe are attached to the document, it's been there for a long time. That the board.
No, you are right. I guess I'm just looking at this, if we're trying to look at infrastructure, there's infrastructure to that fountain that potentially could be utilized potentially for a water feature and make it
Mike-
cheaper, but not sure.
Mike, what I wanted to touch on was to go back to the 5 million real quickly, because I pulled up the agreement.
Okay.
The debt service amount was 10,936,957 for a 25-year term at 737,000 annually. The 5 million that was to come out of that consisted of $726,316 for design work, 3.9 million, 2,000 for park, 500,000 for park fixtures, and a portion of the 5,000,003 for overall site work related to water, lighting, and other park features. That's from the agreement. So that the 3.9 millions referenced right in for the actual construction.
You got 500,000 for features too, so.
Right, that's in there too, though.
Okay.
But like I said, there's so many numbers involved here.
Right. Okay. I understand. Anybody else right now that wants to make a comment here? Director Yesbeck, and then I'll go to Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I'd have to support. I don't think we have any option. We have to agree with Director Riley. You know, you get a $200,000 plus or minus change order or addition a couple hours before the meeting. We can certainly hold a special meeting after some of this information is digested. And I think you have to answer questions like, can we waive $68,000 in permit fees? Let's answer that question, because that's not, it's not $10, that's almost $100,000. So when we're in this situation, I think we have to understand all the numbers and then come back and do what we have to do to make this go forward.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. Just to get back to Director Rosbeck's comment about the infrastructure, that is the water feature is actually probably located in the best spot it can be right now. The water main comes in over in that area to the existing building, so that's where we're going to utilize that to actually help feed the water feature. So it really wouldn't have anything to do with the existing fountain that's on site. And then also, I just want to make sure I take full responsibility for getting these numbers to you late. I wasn't even aware of the DDA meeting. We had some issues in our office on Monday. We were trying to get the numbers turned around and make sure that they were right. So we got them to Paul late in the day, after hours actually on Monday. So really getting the numbers to you guys was really our issue, my issue with myself and my team, and I apologize about that. So I'm available. If you guys would like to think about it, overnight in the next 2 days or whatever, I'm available anytime any of you would like to ask any questions. I'm more than available to do it at any time, day or evening that you'd like. So
Okay, thank you. So I'll go to Director London first, and then I'm going to summarize here.
I guess I have a question, two different questions. One for Tim. If they have a meeting, infrastructure has a meeting, comes up with a plan that we can digest and approve, whatever that may be, can we still come up and let's say at a time later, we sell the naming rights of the fountain to some corporation for $100,000, let's say. Can you do it retroactive and put that money back in the DDA?
Mr. Twing?
Well, I would say that it's possible. I would say, given the likelihood and selling the naming rights and how long it would take to potentially put that together, I'd say it's unlikely to occur before the project's done.
Well, that's why I said retroactively, because obviously that could be a year later.
Right. So.
And then my question for Mr. Brake is, when you did the park for the city that you worked for before, was the community thrilled? Did it serve its purpose?
Absolutely did. Yeah. It's a waterfront park, but it's still part of the downtown area in Morgantown, West Virginia. So it was a park renovation. It was started out as a 4.2 million and crept up kind of similar type of scenario up to about 4.6 million. So it was an existing amphitheater, but it entirely renovated it. So, and there was some sensitive issue that there was kind of some legacy donations that were made, and there's a lot of similarities between the two projects. So.
Well, we don't have the legacy donations.
Yeah. So kind of reminiscent of that. So it got through those tricky waters, but kind of same consideration. And naturally, as you go through a project, and I don't want to get too nuanced in this, but going through a construction project, you have a difference of opinion from park designers and the people that actually have to construct it. And so that's where you can have the largest variance in the dollar amount. And so again, in this example project, the project that I worked on, it started out enormously huge and had to scale that down tremendously. So it's, we made it work, and kind of a similar where we just have to put the information into perspective and make a good decision. But I think once we move forward, we can keep within where those numbers, where we plant that flag and come. My bottom line priority is to come back with a quality product that everyone's pleased with.
Thank you.
Mr. Twing?
Can I suggest that the board just schedule a special meeting, maybe next Wednesday, if it doesn't need to occur sooner, rather than referring it back to the committee? I would rather just have the whole board be able to ask us questions and move it forward. That'd be my suggestion, is you just schedule a special meeting as whenever you're available.
I have no problem with that. I'm wondering if that's the most effective way to get it done. I don't know how many more questions board members will have or need to, what more information board members will need before coming to some sort of resolution on this. But I like your idea, Mr. Twing. I'm just wondering if that's going to work for the board members in terms of getting the information that they need. Director Rosbeck.
Could we just, for the newer members and myself, I'm newer to what we committed to this. Could we just get an outline of the numbers that Matt was giving us, Director Riley was giving us, explaining the commitments? Mr. Twing, it would be helpful. And then understand what it is that the variance that we're seeing. Again, I don't think I got the complete package prior to this meeting, so it is confusing to me what was agreed upon, because in the attachment A that was on our agenda, it only shows 1.5 million from the DDA, but you've already said there was 5 million committed to this over the course of 25 years. So I think that would be helpful. And I do think that if we could schedule a quicker meeting, like a quick turnaround on this to agree to what we need to agree to without losing.
I think we're getting close to where we want to get here. Director Riley?
Yeah, I agree. If we can get, you know, all the documents that we need to ask the questions that we need to flesh out, you know, how we started, where we got here. I mean, there's this one sheet, you know, that's got a lot of back and forth on it, and it took me a while to get through that and kind of try to understand it. But yeah, I think that would be worthwhile as long as we can ask whatever we want to ask and you know, figure out how we got here and where we're really at number wise, and where, you know, outside of value engineering, where I guess we can do our own value engineering, if you will, on some of the budgeted items, you know, like the permit fees and like what have you, and then figure out, all right, if we got to reach into our pocket, are we going all the way in our pocket? Is the city needing us? Are we going to put out a, you know, something where we work with the city down the road, you know, to get some of this back or what have you? I mean, the bottom line is, you know, we've already, in my mind, we've already put up $6.5 million for this park. And what, and I'm not trying to be an ass here, but what we're getting is, you know, we're getting something that's been value engineered. So, and now again, without sounding like an ass, we're being asked to pay more money for less park.
Okay. So I'm going to try and summarize here and say if we can get to a conclusion here. I like Mr. Twing's idea. I think we're on the right path with that. I think we could turn around a special meeting very easily. Along with that, I would suggest that either Mr. Twing or Mr. Kammer or Mr. Brake or Mr. Anderson, if we could get at least a summary sheet of where we are today, what we're looking at, okay? And then also, Mr. Anderson has graciously made himself available that if we could have Mr. Anderson's contact numbers, that individual board members could contact him to get questions answered. I think we could turn around this very quickly. So, I mean, without objection, that would be the path that I would like to take. If someone's not agreeable to that, Mr. Keith.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to start at that 10, the 10 million, the bonds that we purchased or whatever as the DDA. If we could start at that point and go backwards, that would be helpful for me just because I was not a part of the past. So, I mean, I'd like to just see that from there. That point would be very helpful for information for myself.
Okay. I'm thinking, Mr. Brake, you're looking like you're agreeable to this.
Yeah, I am. This is perfect. So, and the 24th works on my calendar. You probably saw a note. We do have some 7 o'clock meetings, so you know we have to share this whole Zoom thing. But you know, with this being a single agenda
item, okay.
Yeah, and especially to get the information out to you in advance. You know, I can't imagine we're going to be spending 3 hours on that.
No, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
So if you could get us some summary information, similar to what you did for us with the infrastructure committee, with the revisions that we received today, that additional information, and again, what Director Keith was looking for as to what the commitment the DDA has put forth up till now and from the starting point. I think that would resolve a lot of the issues, resolve a lot of the questions.
Yeah, well, plus to answer Director Yazbek's question too. Let's not forget about that. So,
yes, absolutely.
Question.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm assuming that Director Brake and Mr. Anderson and Mr. Twing will be available for questions between now and the 24th, should any individual member want to email them or contact them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Director Yazbek.
Yeah, before we get off this topic, there was a suggestion at public comment that there is some legal impediment to moving the Veterans Memorial. Is that accurate or not accurate?
No, the information was partial on that. So what was designated that was approved by the city commission is a meets and bounds legal description that the monument has to be stayed in an area from the edge of the current parking lot of the police department to Troy Street to the former road right-of-way of 2nd Street all the way up to Williams Street. It did not say that it could never move. it's as long as it's within that legally designated, when I say legally, by meets and bounds property description, as long as it stays within that. Part of that information was not correct. The other part of votes being taken is, but if you so desire, we have a pretty lengthy summary of the activities that have taken place since the last move of the Veterans Memorial. Keep in mind that that's one segment, and they've made their opinion known, but that has been an opinion has been given by the city attorney on that topic. So, and I'll let Mr. Twing weigh in, because these are things that occurred. This predates me, but this is my understanding of it.
Mr. Twing?
I would concur. I don't believe I really need, there's been a legal opinion written on it as far as a lot of those questions. So I'll leave it with that.
Okay. Okay, anything else regarding this matter at this point?
Could I ask that you make a motion to schedule the special meeting?
Sure.
For February 24th at 4 o'clock?
Director Riley?
I make a motion to schedule a special meeting to go over city park budget for Wednesday, February 24th at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Director Yazbek?
Second.
Director Yazbek seconds the motion. I have a motion on the table. Okay, roll call. Director Riley?
Yes.
Director Yazbek?
Yes.
Director London?
Yes.
Director Keith?
Yes.
Director Lewan?
Yes.
Director Rosbeck?
Yes.
Director Brake?
Yes.
And I will vote yes also. Motion passes. Okay. Thank you for that. Moving forward, okay. We are on item number 8, and what I'm going to do at this time is ask that Vice Chair Yazbek take over the meeting simply just for item number 8 at this time. I'm going to recuse myself from this item. I have financial interest in one of the businesses that has a application put forth.
Mike, before you do that, Carol, do we have anyone on the call from Screw Media?
Would you like them admitted now?
No, not yet, but Mike, if you're gonna wanna admit them, maybe you wanna move the social media content up and take care of that right now, and then I believe that'll be the last outside party that's.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Any objection to that? Mr. Anderson?
Am I good to go?
Yep.
You are, sir. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so hold that. We'll hold that off. We'll move the item number 10 on the agenda up to right now. Social media content. Let's make sure that everybody's on here. Okay. All right, I believe we're going to have Mr. Kammer is going to lead us in on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I can introduce the item here. This is basically regarding a proposal from Screw. The GDA board may recall it originally had a 6-month contract with Screw from June 2020 to December 2020 to produce promotional videos featuring a variety of downtown businesses each month at a rate of $7,500 per month. In November of last year, the DDA agreed to extend that contract with Screw for the same rate for an additional 3 months. So right now, Screw's contract with the DDA is set to terminate on March 1st. They recently attended a Consumer Marketing Committee meeting to discuss an additional extension of the contract. So the committee reviewed and discussed the item, and they provided me with some feedback. The feedback was pretty varied. Portion of the committee made some comments with regard to the costs, questioned some of the details in the proposal. Overall, I had a plurality of the committee recommend that the contract not be renewed, and instead the item of producing promotional videos for the DDA actually go out for RFP. Based on that feedback that I received from multiple members, a resolution has been prepared for the board's consideration reflecting that, to basically take the issue of producing promotional videos for the DDA, publishing an RFP, and then having the DDA decide on who to hire next for that service.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go to Director Yesbeck first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start out by saying that I'm not sure I agree with that we didn't have more of a consensus, or that as to who recommended we extend the SCROOF contract for 3 months and who didn't. I know that my feeling was that and I guess I'll back up, there was consensus that there is no harm to proceeding with this RFP. We've had similar situations, and it makes sense to see what other options are out there for us. I think, we all agreed that was the best way to move this forward. But I think more of the discussion was, what do we do in the interim? To bring on, we experienced these learning curves before, and it's not just the RFP. It's once you decide on a contractor or a vendor, then you have to bring them up to speed. There is a learning curve. So if you're talking a 2-3 month process or more, I don't think this is, and in my opinion, it's not the right time to not be able to respond to changing conditions. Hopefully this pandemic, we're moving forward. The numbers look much better every day. And so hopefully there's going to be some changes in terms of what we're doing in downtown Royal Oak, and to not have our full ability, our full repertoire of communicators available to us to communicate to the public. Just there's so much confusion. For example, this current 10 o'clock curfew, and nobody really understood that if you go outdoors, you can be open past 10 o'clock. So it just doesn't make sense, while we are proceeding in the RFP, with the RFP, to limit our ability to communicate in the social media world as we've been communicating in the past, for the past several months. Obviously, this content provider works in conjunction with social media and Siren. And so I can't think of a good justification to let this go dark. That was, my position. And I thought there was more unanimity or more consensus with regard to that point. I know I left the meeting early, but I was a little confused by that. I guess we'll hear from the other members.
Okay.
Yeah, Director Safai, if I could clarify, just solely on that, and I'll ask Chair Safai and Chair of the CMC, Yesbeck. Sean saying there's a quote unquote plurality. Unfortunately, I was able to read the emails as part of the agenda, which for the life of me, I'll never know why those were included in the agenda and why. I mean, I've never seen that in 7 years where we've included content like that that's usually done at a table in a meeting on the agenda. But the way I saw it, it was pretty evident where Directors Rosbeck and London stood. It was pretty evident that they were against it. Director Yesbeck or Chair Yesbeck was for, but Director Keith, I didn't read his as an against, and I guess I'll ask him how he was with that.
Yeah, I would agree that I wasn't against it. I mean, what we were asking for was the 3-month plan, and granted, the document we received did not show the plan, and that was my major feedback of that, right? So there was a whole bunch of different things that we were having discussions about in terms of, do we go dark? Do we go for the RFP? And I felt that it was very important to go through the RFP process, but I also thought it was very bad to go dark and have nobody doing that, so I wanted, in terms of what I was looking for, was a better plan of ways that we could integrate new things of, hey, let's do one live, right, at 30 minutes at 10:30 to say, hey, we're still open or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, find a different approach to different things that we could improve on, looking at construction sites and doing different things of other ways to integrate, downtown Royal Oak. That was what I was looking to see, and really validate the coordination between Siren and themselves to make sure that we're all working together as a team amongst this marketing effort, right? So we need to make sure that everybody's all on the same page, because why are we going to spend X dollars a month? Those two contracts together equals the dollar amount that we know, and we need to make sure that dollar amount is spent appropriately amongst the coordination between Siren and Scroove, and going out to RFP and then dealing with this in 3 months whenever we get somebody on board and we have sums and we've popped out a spring, with a bang with all of the construction, and maybe that's the bang, right? Whatever, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of opportunity there.
Thank you. Okay, I have a lot of hands here, so
Yep.
I'm gonna go around the board here. Director Yezbek, or I'm sorry, Director Rosbeck.
Thank you. So I want to just clarify that, and I'm actually going to put this up for motion. I think that I'm going to revise what Sean has. I want to move this to approve that we go into an RFP, but I want to move Scroove to a month-to-month contract. I did not agree with us going with a 3-month contract based on what we asked them to do, and they weren't able to give us a 3-month plan. So that is my resolution, is that I would like to move this forward to an RFP, but keep Scroove on to a month-to-month contract.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Rosbeck and a second by Director London. I've got some more hands here. Director Riley?
Yeah, I just, my only concern there is that, okay, we're in a month-to-month contract, so and the bottom line is, I couldn't agree more with, I think it's Director Yezbek and Director Keith, that we do need to maintain continuity and keep things going. And I think that things are really going to start shaking loose here, although somebody just texted me that, and Director Yezbek's not going to want to hear this, or Director Safaya, but that the 25% dining was backdoor extended through March 25th without, and 10 p.m. curfew. None of us want it.
March 29th, and I have heard that, and very disappointing.
Yeah. So anyway, suffice to say, I think, and look, I am totally in agreement. Let me preface by saying I'm totally in agreement with RFP, because there's been some consternation as to, what else is out there, what the price is. Let's find out once and for all. I could not agree more with that right now. 1 month, 3 months. The bottom line is we got to get an RFP together. I looked at the RFP that's there. It looks like it, without being an ass, it's just kind of hashed together. There still needs to be some work on the RFP to pinpoint it a little bit more. And, having gone through it, you're going to have to get everything in. You're going to have interviews. You're going to have committee meetings to meet with the people and go through the machinations, select somebody, bring it back to the board. And then they've got basically a month to get their feet on the ground and connect and produce content. So we are looking at, 3 months down the road at best, maybe 4 months. I just don't know that we agreed back in November that we wanted, that we didn't want to go dark, and that we did want to extend for 3 months until we got all this together. And now here we are in February, and we're right back in the same position. But the good news is that we've continued things through, and I understand we're adding, one of the items on the agenda is for the assistant to the downtown manager. I mean, that's all fine and dandy. They can get involved in the RFP if they want. I think that's going to be more of a person who's placing the media content as opposed to selecting vendors. I mean, we're saddling them already with Siren and with Factory and with whomever. So I just, for the sake of having to go through this every month, I mean, I respect the RFP all day long, and I respect the at least a month, but I just don't see why we just don't put 3 months on there. And on top of that, and sorry for going on, I read Director Keith's email, and there was some just incredible ideas in there. I would recommend that ASAP, before anything else happens, that Scrooge sit down with Director Keith and perhaps as well Director Luan, has a business not only in Royal Oak but in Detroit that deals with a lot of the social media type things, and to talk to them as well and get some ideas and put together a plan and rock it for 3 months.
Okay, I've got a couple people. Let me just say this: the gentleman from Scrooge, I will open it up to you because your item is being discussed, but you're going to have to hang on a minute while I go through the board members. But prior to us taking a final vote, I will give you an opportunity to speak.
Excellent.
Director London.
I just wanted to talk to Dr. Riley's point. Director Keith did give these ideas to Scrooge. So these are not new ideas to them. And we asked for a 3-month plan to implement how you would lay out these going forward with social media, to be specific. Do a Valentine's thing, do a St. Patrick's Day thing, do a live Instagram. So these ideas were given to Scrooge at our meeting. And second of all, my other point is we're not going to go dark. We still have Sean. Sean has not quit his job, and he still does some Instagramming for us, I do believe, on his own. And that will still happen. That's my only 2 points.
Thank you, Director London. Director Yazbek.
Yeah, I think, we probably get to the same place on a month to month, but my concern is a practical one. These guys produce videos. There's a lot of, I've seen it. And as I understand it, there's a lot of moving parts to scheduling and editing and all these different components of it. So if we want some continuity for 3 months, and I think we probably do, because the entire group here wanted to see a 3-month plan, and let's plan some things and let's be ready when conditions change. So I just don't know what we save by going month to month as opposed to a 3-month contract, and give them, the stability that, hey, let's plan for 3 months. We're going to do some things. I think the CMC meeting was very positive in terms of, fleshing out some good concepts, some good suggestions, some good ideas, and we can get right back there and follow through with some of those. But as a practical matter, if we want some continuity, and I think they do some things that Sean's very good at what he does, but I think Scrooge brings some other things to the table that Sean doesn't do. So I think that would be the important reason that why we need, new content based on what's going on in the world. So I can't support the 1 month because I don't see what it accomplishes. The 3 month, it gives us the ability to move forward and have some consistency.
Thank you. Director Luan.
Does someone oversee the schedule of the videos? I know week by week it's a lot of content to be putting out. So you're right that there's a lot of planning there, and probably 3 months would be easier. But is someone on the city's team approving all of this, making sure that the changes are being integrated, more diversity, mastering? I think I really agree with all of those feedback points, spotlighting the business owners more. So it's a little bit less about Scrooge and a little bit more about the city business owners and residents, which I think you've already started to integrate some of that feedback, and it looks great to me. My background's in social media and content marketing before Bamboo, so I think if there's good management, I don't see why this couldn't work for 3 months and at least get some great improvement that'll make everybody happy.
Okay. I'll go to you in a second, Director London. Director Mr. Cameron, did you want to weigh in?
I can just provide a little bit of insight on Director Lewin's question. And yes, it is being scheduled and it is being managed and reviewed. It's not being done centrally. So a portion of those functions are carried out by the Consumer Marketing Committee that did provide feedback recently on some things that they wanted to see managed differently. And they did provide feedback to Scroove to make some changes. And then in terms of just the general scheduling, we have Siren, a staff person at Siren that was doing all of our social media scheduling. And then I talked to our representative from Siren on a weekly basis to talk over issues and everything. And so we're constantly talking about content and what might need to change, and not just with Scroove, but with a variety of topics. So
Thank you. Director London.
I just want to say that this is our second 3-month extension, and the point was we need to go forward.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I think we've gone through the gamut here. There is a motion currently on the table. The motion states that we will move forward with the RFP and we will go on a month-to-month contract with Scroove. Did I state that right, Director Rosbeck? Thank you.
Yes, you did.
I'm going to give
at their current rate.
at their current rate. Okay.
Yep.
So before I call for the vote, I'm going to give Scroove an opportunity to speak to the board.
Can I ask a question with regard to the motion?
Yes, please. Motion for clarification. Yes, please.
If we vote no on the motion, then we can, and if the motion fails, then we could come back with a motion to extend 3 months, correct?
You can, that is correct.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay. Gentlemen from Scroove, if you could be brief on this, I appreciate it. We've got a long agenda here.
Yep.
But if there's something you'd like to add to the conversation.
Yeah, just really quick. I mean, the last CMC meeting, obviously a lot got discussed and we were happy to be a part of that. Because obviously, yes, communication is key, especially when we're producing content of this volume. And I think it was a good step forward. Clearly, there was miscommunication. I guess I thought the plan that you guys had requested was in response to the requests that were made at the previous CMC meeting to make the bullet points that Sean had emailed. And I thought that after we voted this week, assuming we got approved, then we would sit down again with the CMC and talk more about these ideas that Dr. Keith had laid out about, like the 10 p.m. curfew and like Director London said with the Valentine's Day and this, that, and the other thing. So I guess I was under the impression that we were going to kind of have those storyboards as a group session moving forward. So clearly miscommunication on our part, but we are always up for communication. And I've always stressed it to Sean, whether it's Siren or the CMC or anybody, I would rather always have more information than less. So we're excited to continue to work with you guys. I think that the work done over the last 9 months has had a positive impact online in the community. So I think we just got to keep moving forward. We're open to suggestions. We want to make this work. I mean, we like working with the city and we're excited to keep going.
Thank you. Just, I appreciate your comments. Keeping, just a reminder that, Mr. Cammer, Sean is our direct contact. So keep it informed with him. We'll keep the board informed and everything can get passed, through the CMC committee, which is where it should be. Thank you very much for your comments and being here.
Yep.
Okay. If there's nothing else at this time, I'm going to call for a vote on the motion that's on the table. I've got Director Rosbeck made the motion. Director Rosbeck.
Yes.
Director London.
Yes.
Director Riley.
No.
Director, I already went to London. Director Yesbeck.
No.
Okay. Director Keith.
No.
Okay. Director Brake.
Yes.
And Director Lewan.
No.
And I will also vote no. That motion does not pass. Any other discussion or motions to be put on the table? Director Riley.
I move to put the video content out for RFP as soon as possible and to extend Scroove at the same rate for 3 months.
A motion by Director Riley. Is that a second, Director Yesbeck?
Yes.
seconded by Director Yazbek. Okay, I'm going to, unless there's some discussion at this point, I'm going to immediately go to a roll call vote. Okay. Director Riley,
Yes.
Director Yazbek,
Yes.
Director Keith,
Yes.
Director London. I'm sorry, Director London, you're muted.
Yep.
Thank you. Director Lawan,
Yes.
Director Rosbeck,
No.
Director Brake,
No.
and I will vote in the yay, and that motion does pass. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen from Screw.
Thanks for having us.
We're done with that item, and I'm sure you'll be in contact.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so back to the agenda. I will go back to item number 8, and I will again turn the meeting over to Director Yazbek to handle item number 8 for my reasons stated earlier. Director Yazbek.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean, are you leading us on this?
Yes, I can introduce the subject. Just have to zoom in on this a little bit. So before the board today are 3 resolutions regarding facade grants. 2 of them are new applications, and 1 of them is a request for reimbursement of a facade application that was already approved. So the first one is from the Sidebar, which opened a couple weeks ago at 116 West 4th Street. It specifies a scope of work that includes a new awning, the replacement of existing French doors with new garage-style doors that open in the front, and replacement of a wall sign at the front of the building. The applicant applied at the beginning of December with for the grant, but the Infrastructure Committee actually did not meet until late January 2021 to review the application. The total cost of the project, according to the application, is $15,000, $15,319. If approved, and if receipts confirm the amount, the applicant would qualify for a reimbursement of $7,659.50 from the DDA. There's a resolution below prepared for the DDA's consideration that specifies this. Do you want me to go through these one at a time as you vote on them, or do you just want me to introduce them all at once?
Mr. Twing?
Either way is fine. I'd go through them all at once, and then it's up to the board to
Sure.
How you want to vote on them.
The second facade improvement grant application is from Metals and Time. They were previously at 400 South Main Street, and they've moved across the street to 301 South Main Street. And in this new location, they are applying for brickwork, a new awning, new exterior lighting, new doors and windows, and a new wall sign. The total cost of the project, according to the application, is estimated to be between $51,000 and $59,000. This would qualify the applicant the maximum amount that it could get reimbursed, which would be $10,000 if the board approves it. Finally, the third facade grant application is one that was already approved in August of 2020. This is former Mr. B's, which has rebranded itself as Alchemy, located at 215 South Main Street. The applicant has completed the facade work, has submitted the final receipts and photos, and was verified by the Infrastructure Committee as having completed the project in accordance with the specifications contained in the application. The total cost of the project, as verified by the receipts, was $15,327. This qualifies the applicant to be reimbursed 50% of the cost of the work, which is calculated to be $7,663.50. And then should the board concur with the recommendations of the committee, there are 3 resolutions prepared for its consideration to authorize these applications.
Okay, if there's, is there any questions for Sean on any of these applications? Yes, Director Rosbeck.
I move to approve all three resolutions.
Support.
Director Riley is second. Okay, any other discussion regarding these items? Then I will call for the vote. Director London,
Yes.
Director Brake,
Yes.
Director Rosbeck,
Yes.
Director Riley,
Yes.
Director Luan,
Yes.
Director Keith,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, Director Yazbek, for that.
My first roll call.
We are going on to item number 9, DDA goals and objectives. This is something that Mr. Twing brings before us every year to take a look at, and I'll let him walk us through it real quick.
That's correct. Every year as part of the budget process, the city finance department includes this narrative and objectives in each of the department budgets, as well as all of the special fund budgets, which the DDA is party to. The first part of it is a generic narrative that includes the mission statement as previously approved by the DDA board, as well as some basic information regarding DDAs and TIFs. And then the following pages include some broad goals and some objectives. And as the chairman said, these are brought for your consideration, revisions, removals, in terms of each of those items. And then at the end in an orange box, there's a narrative statement regarding significant revenues, expenditures, and program notes. I basically insert those in there with the finance department after you actually review your and do a budget for fiscal year 21, 22. The ones that are in there are from fiscal year 2021, just to show you the types of items that will get inserted in that portion once you review and approve a budget for next year. But I wanted to get the goals and objectives in front of you so that you had an opportunity to review those, make any revisions. Obviously, I don't need this today. If there's comments on it or questions or additional information, that would be great. But probably at your March meeting, we'll go through starting to put together a budget for next fiscal year. And I would like those or this document also approved at that time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Twing. So I would suggest, what I'm going to suggest on this is that everybody consider this document between now and the March meeting. And if you want to make some recommendations as to changes that you might see and bring them back to the board for the March meeting. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can contact Mr. Twing directly. Director Yazbek.
Yeah, I was just this is the time that annual get together and we talk about on a Saturday morning, which is too early for me, but we talk about these goals and objectives. Are we not going to do that this year?
We don't have anything scheduled, and I think that's basically was the kind of the COVID type action. I don't know if you had any thought on this, Mr. Twing, or not. I mean, it is typically the time that we do it.
Well, you haven't done it every year. I think you've done it at the point where the board feels there's a significant reason to have a work session on goals and objectives. And I guess if you're looking at these and feel that there's a significant change in them and there's a need for that, then we can schedule a work session. Doesn't necessarily have to be on a Saturday morning either, by the way.
Okay. Director Rossbeck?
Even
Yeah,
better.
could we, I mean, does Siren, if Siren's helping us strategically, has Siren looked at these and also added comment to this?
Well, this
Oh,
is
but
more.
we sure can, go ahead.
We can send it to them, but it's more than just marketing.
No, and I understand that, but some of these things, some of the goals, some of the objectives are very much about creating, like create a downtown city park. There might be additional objectives around or goals around, getting people to downtown Royal Oak because of some of the objectives we have listed here.
Why don't we send it over to them and ask for some comments back? Okay.
I mean, things to look at that. I mean, like the flaunting the facade grants, right? I mean, what a thing to post of our program to help with the facades. You know what I mean? Like that's content right there, ready to go. We already do the good, so let's promote the good.
Exactly.
Good thought. Good thought. Okay. Anything else on this item? Okay, seeing none. Let's move along here to item number 11, which would be assistant to the downtown manager. I don't know, Sean or Tim, who wants to?
Well, the memo's from Sean, so I'll let him start.
Okay.
I can introduce the subject. So the board may recall that it approved the development of a part-time contracted assistant at the January 2021 board meeting. The purpose of this assistant is intended to manage social media and other tasks for the DDA. So included in this item was a position description that was reviewed by the Consumer Marketing Committee. They reviewed it at its most recent meeting, and they provided some feedback and some changes for the position description. So it's attached to the cover memo. There is a resolution also here that's prepared for the board's consideration, basically to approve the position description, and then that would allow the executive director and I to post the position and begin the interview or the application process, so to speak.
Okay. I'll open the floor for some questions here. Director Lawan.
I just have a minor comment. I thought this looked really good. Down at the bottom under qualifications, when you said significant experience, as somebody who's probably a little younger on this board, I would have probably liked to have seen like 2+ years or 5+ years. I'm not sure how much that matters. I think you could move forward with this description and get it out there, but I think sometimes clarifying it will help you find out who you're really looking to hire and what stage of their career they'll be at.
Thank you. Okay. So Director Riley.
Yeah, and I'll just throw this out there, and I don't have a number in mind, but I like the, well, I don't like hamstringing ourselves with in an RFP, and what I'm saying is in the compensation, it's flat $25 an hour up to 20 hours per week, but you open that up, or more is determined. Does the more is determined, does that also apply to the wage as well as the hours? And again, I'm just trying to anticipate a great scenario where you got somebody who's just a fantastic candidate, but they're like, I need $27 an hour. Then it's like, oh, we got to go back to the board, or how does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, we left ourselves open. We gave ourselves coverage with the 20 hours a week. Again, or does the more is determined, does that also apply to the wage?
Well, any of these contracted positions, you're going to actually have once you interview people and select someone, you're actually going to enter into a contract with them. I think you can address if they want more money, you can address that when you do the contract.
And you're right. When they bring it back to the board for full approval. Good point. Okay. All right.
So, Sean, I guess just for clarity purposes, the resolution that's in the memo is simply for the DDA to approve the posting of the position?
Mhm.
Is that correct?
And the hiring.
unmute myself. Sorry. Yes. Yep. It would just, it would be the posting of the position so that we could start taking applications and begin the interview process. I mean, I can let Tim maybe expound on some of the next steps beyond that, but it was my anticipation that, you know, whoever would apply and whatnot, that would be reviewed by the committee who originally reviewed this position description. And then there would be a resolution to hire that person at a set wage would be the next resolution to come before this board.
Okay, so we would be, Tim, we would be, a contract would be brought back to us at a later date.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Director Rosbeck first.
Yeah, I'd like to just move to, make a motion to approve this position description as stated.
Support.
Okay, motion by Director Rosbeck, supported by Director Riley. Any other discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. Director Rosbeck,
Yes.
Director Riley,
Yes.
Director Lewan,
Yes.
Director Brake,
Yes.
Director London,
Yes.
Director Keith,
Yes.
Director Yasbeck,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. That motion passes. Okay. Item number 12, WROK PTSA request.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you want me to go through this?
Did this come directly from you, Director?
It did.
Rosbeck?
It did, but it went to our committee first.
Okay.
Went to the CMC first.
Why don't you go ahead and lead us in on it? And then we'll go from there.
Okay. So full disclosure, I'm on the Royal Oak High School PTSA. I am the secretary. They in discussion of teacher and staff appreciation would like to purchase approximately 126 $20 cards. When we first discussed this in the CMC, this was prior to the Consumers Energy 100% match going live. The thought was that the high school PTA would purchase $10 and be awarded $10 in match to those cards. So the request is, but let me back up. But apparently that match went a lot faster than staff understood it to go. So the reason this is coming to this committee is that we'd like to request 100% match from the DDA for these gift cards.
Okay. Director Kammer, if you would please, two clarifications. If you could. Well, I'll narrow it down to one. I like this idea. I mean, I'm fine with it. I guess my question to you would be that, so that we're not singling out, my concern initially was that we were singling out one PTSA over the other 7 that are in the city. My question to you would be that if other PTSA wanted to purchase these, are they going to be available, or are we running out of this, and is the program ending soon?
So if this were approved, the PTSA wouldn't be able to just buy this directly on the website because there's a $300 match cap. So basically, why this requires action from the board is it basically needs to bless the suspension of that rule because it's a bulk purchase.
I see.
So what it would have to happen is the PTSA would have to send a check to YIFTI, and then I would have to go into the dashboard and manually send out those cards. So they wouldn't be going through the normal interface to purchase them.
I understand. Director Riley.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start off and I hate to be that guy, but I'm gonna ask why this wasn't referred to the Business Marketing Committee, seeing as how we were the ones who developed the gift card program, and everything that's been presented with regard to the gift card program and the budget involved has gone through us, including the original program, the match program, the holiday program. We had discussions with Sean on the Consumers Energy Program. And I would have thought, particularly since it was being brought forward by a member of the Consumer Marketing Committee, that it sure for optical purposes, it would have been far better to have gone through the Business Marketing Committee, since, I mean, this is the first thing that with regard to Royal Oak dollars that has been outside of our committee in terms of a motion. So that's my first point.
I'll just say I brought it to Tim and Sean. So I
Okay.
didn't bring it into the CMC necessarily.
I understand. Okay.
I guess my next question would be, were these teachers and staff included in the gift cards that were given at Christmas by the Royal Oak Schools Foundation? Were they part of that as well?
That is a potential that they were. I can't answer that.
Okay, because Sean, if I'm not mistaken, that was all of the Royal Oak School District employees, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe that was every employee of the Royal Oak School District.
Okay, and again, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here. I don't want to. I do have an issue with the precedent with the 7 other PTAs, and I do have an issue with this with the optics, in that it was brought forward by a director who has a direct connection, in fact, is an officer on this, and this is a program that only benefits that one entity. If we can get this off the table and this will be accepted. When I first saw this, as some of you might know, I'm involved in some fundraising, and I'm involved in some charities. And I have a nice donor list of guys, and they know I'm actively involved in Royal Oak, and I hadn't bothered them in a while. And I tossed this out to them, and if it makes a difference, I was able to get pledges for the full 1260, and would be happy to cover the 1260 and keep this out of the DDA.
That's not what was requested of the PTA. The PTA was willing to purchase the $10. They were just trying to utilize the match. That's all. And they were trying to utilize the consumer energy match, and it went awry. That was the only, and in committee discussion, it wasn't seen to be no one seemed to raise any issue with it, but that was it. So, and then Sean let me know that the 100% match didn't work or didn't come. So I'm guessing that's why it came to this full committee.
Well,
Gotcha. Okay.
That's why.
Riley.
Yeah, and I totally understand. I mean, the match is so now this is going to have to come out of what's left of our downtown dollars money that's sitting in our YIFTI account. And what I'm proposing just extends that further and keeps this off the table, and there has to be no, I'm sure everybody's intentions here were solid and whole, but there can be others where the optics might not appear so great. And I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to avoid setting a precedent.
Yeah.
I get it.
Your offer is awesome, Director Riley. We have to go around here and see if this is even doable or not. I'm not clear, because I'm not clear on all the rules here.
There would just be donations to the high school PTA, which again, my group would be happy to support Royal Oak. They've supported the animal shelter before. They're happy to support the town.
Okay. Questions, comments, Director London?
I was just going to say it's an extremely generous offer, Director Riley, and Jennifer, you don't have a problem with it. I think it just makes it a clean transaction.
Yep.
Generous, clean, it's nice.
Okay. Director Yazbek.
Yeah, I just want to tell Director Luan, I prefaced many of my comments in these DDA meetings with being one of the younger members of the DDA. Apparently that's over for me now. So No, I think Director Riley's offer, I know how philanthropic he is. That's amazing. And anything we can do to support teachers, I'm all for it.
And the high school, absolutely. We only have one high school.
Okay. I guess where we're leaning right now is to kind of pull this agenda item for the time being and let.
Well, we still need to purchase the cards.
Well,
Okay.
Sean, how do we do that? How do we clear the deck so we can do the 10 and 10?
So I'm gonna have to call Yifty, let them know that there'll be 2 checks that are gonna be sent to them, and then that those checks will specifically be for a purchase of, I believe, 126 $20 cards. And then a portion of the money will be from Director Riley's source of funding, and a portion would be from the PTSA. And basically, if the board approves that, then I can just kind of handle that, and we can bypass that $300 cap.
Does that make sense to everybody here at the table? Okay.
And it's 124, so just to clarify, so, and I'm recusing myself for this motion too.
And then I'll figure out a way with Director Rosbach to get the funds. The funds will go from us to the PTA, and then they will take it from there.
Thank you.
Okay, so Director Rosbach's going to recuse herself from this vote. I'll need a motion to purchase the cards.
I'll make a motion to purchase the cards.
Okay, motion by Director Keith,
I'll second it.
second by Director London. Okay. Without further discussion.
Can I just clarify that?
Sure.
Can that be clarified to be that the PTA can purchase the cards? Because it's not the DDA purchasing the cards.
Yeah,
Oh,
clarify.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Clarify the motion that the PTSA can purchase the cards of.
Well, I have one question too of Sean though. Isn't it really waiving the $300 cap? Isn't that what they're really doing?
No, I'm not anymore, I guess. Yes, I'm waiving the 300 cap for the purchase of the $10 cards.
Are you okay with that terminology, Mr. Keith?
Yes.
Are you
Make a
okay,
motion.
Director
Yes.
London?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second, we have clarification. Director Keith,
Yes.
Director London,
Yes.
Director Yesbick,
Yes.
Director Riley,
Yes.
Director Lewan,
Yes.
Director Brake,
Yes.
and I will vote yes also, and that motion passes. Okay, item number 13, Director Rosbach's request.
It's Director Rosbach night.
Yeah, it is. Okay, why don't you start us out here and
Yes.
we'll see where we go.
Yeah. So this is really, I think, just for discussion, and if a proposal comes out of this, but as I've been sitting on this board for about a year now, some of the things that I've just took notes on, and I think that we have new members on the board, and I've looked at other DDA websites. I'm hoping to just add an ability for us to create some opportunity for business to come to the board as a whole, and maybe add some transparency to our websites and just improve some processes. One item of improvement that I think would be helpful is that having a city email for the directors where public comment could come to all of us. This is not different than other commissions that are within the city, planning, zoning. They all have I'm not saying we need individual city emails, but maybe we have one that redirects to all of us if there is public comment. So that's one of my ideas or for consideration. It'll allow people to bring business to us as opposed to potentially knowing somebody and trying to bring it into a committee. It can be then directed into the appropriate committees. Second, in other DDA websites, directors are listed with their business interests present so that people can understand who's sitting on the DDA and what businesses they may have or what they have within. It allows for transparency within the city, and it's just something that again, another improvement we can take under consideration. And then just number 3, I don't know, I haven't been given another ethics or conflict of interest paperwork, so I don't know if that's an annual thing, but I do think that we should. I know we have new board members, but I also know that COVID has made business changes happen this year, so we probably should update those, and those are just something that I think we should put into our annual business meeting potentially. I don't know. But again, I brought this to, Tim, Mr. Brake, and Sean. So
Okay,
this is why it was brought to the board.
thank you. Okay. I welcome everybody's comment here. And I will open up the floor here. What I'm leaning towards here is what Director Rosbeck just said is I would personally like for Mr. Twing, our executive director, and Mr. Kammer and Mr. Brake to take a look at this and have Mr. Twing compile some sort of thoughts or recommendations or some ideas with their experience in this. I'm sure Mr. Brake could bring some valuable content to this in some of the other positions that he's been into also, and what their DDAs do and everything else too. So that would be the path that I would like to go, but I also don't want to burden Mr. Brake and Mr. Twing with more work. But that would be my suggestion. I see Director Lawan's hand.
Oh, I like this, and I agree with your suggestion. I just thought on that line, not auto sending a ton of emails to all the board, and maybe that's something that could be more internally done, or the new part-time social media manager could help figure out a way. How do you create an email and create that transparency, but balance it so that we're not, all getting too many new emails that we can't stay on top of. So that was just my only comment.
Okay. Okay. Director, let's see, Mr. Twing, am I making any sense here, or?
I would be happy to give you back recommendations on each topic. That's not a problem. I've got enough boards that want to approach this in different ways. Some board members don't want their names and items listed because they don't want to get unsolicited comments, but they have a different position from the DDA board. So I think that's why, at least for myself, I have forwarded this in that it impacts all the board members, and how does the board want us to proceed? I don't think from a technology standpoint, it's difficult to add emails. The city commission has emails for each one of themselves that can get sent out. But that's the choice of the city commission. So I don't think any of this is difficult to do. There is a ethics ordinance that requires certain things. So all of these topics are not an issue, and I'd be happy to get back to you, at least my thoughts. But at the end of the day, it's how does the board want to proceed with these? Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to get your thoughts, and Mr. Brake could weigh in also if he'd like to. I do know that my experience on this board and other boards that I've served on, we've never really acted under the same criteria as the city commission and the structure of the city commission. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just saying we've handled our ethics differently than the way the city commission does. So anyway, any other comments at this point? If not, I'm going to direct it back to staff until they have a chance to take a look at it. Okay. All right. Then we're going to move on. Item number 14, National Main Conference. Sean?
I'll actually put this one.
Okay.
I've had one request from one board member to be scheduled so that they can attend this online conference. I simply put it on to see if any other board members would like to be scheduled for that meeting, and so that I could do all the registrations at one time.
Okay. I'm just pulling up the information here.
Yeah, and you don't have to tell me today. There is a deadline coming up, but if you can get to me maybe by Monday of next week, and we can take care of it from there.
Okay. Sean, are you going to be a part of that, or?
This is the same conference I typically attend every year. You know, it was canceled last year. I think it's important that we try to get as many board members and members of the downtown community to participate in attending this as possible. You know, I think it's got a lot of valuable information, and I think just being more familiar with the National Main Street program that we're a member of is definitely important, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned. But yeah, this is something that I've been attending, I think, pretty regularly since we've joined the program in 2018.
Okay, so board members, please contact Mr. Twing if this is something that you want to participate in. Okay, that being said, last item on the agenda, reports. Tim?
These are all informational items, a couple of follow-up reports from the radio and PR firms. South Main Street resurfacing is getting postponed. You'll see that in there rather than happening what was planned for this coming construction season. And there was a small contract modification regarding the brick paver and streetlights. That modification, the contract was through the city, so the city commission actually blessed it. It's still under the dollar amount that was allocated by the DDA board, so there's no action required on it. But those are all just for your information.
Okay. Okay, we've had a long meeting. Any other action or information that anybody wants to bring to the table? Okay.
I just want to briefly say very quickly, the Consumers Energy Match program, I'm not sure if everybody was familiar with how quickly that actually went. But I was on the phone with YIFTI to actually secure the PTSA funds. And within just a matter of minutes, they called me back and told me that the money was gone. And I think since we started it, I think around 1 o'clock, the funds were available for about 3.5 hours before they completely sold out. So we went through $22,000 in just a few short hours. I went through and looked at a lot of the purchases just to make sure like a bot wasn't running through it and just buying all the cards or something. So they looked pretty legit. I looked at all the email addresses and it was genuine interest from the community. One thing I can't tell is if one person had different email addresses. There's really no way for me to verify that. But it looks like we had a total of 202 customers come in and buy cards, and they averaged $108 per card, or per purchase, I should say. So that's just some of the basic stats on that.
Okay. Director Riley?
Follow up on that. Sean, I still have never disabled my thing, so I still get it, and it drives me crazy, but I just haven't figured out how to do it. But I still get an email every time a card is bought that we match. I still get an email, and I followed every one of them. And I mean, it was insanity. I mean, I was getting like 200 emails every 5 minutes, and I'd go through them. And I was amazed how many people did not max out, which the last time we had 100% match, they were maxing out. Sean's right. It was like 1 here, 2 there. And I only counted 3 or 4 who double dipped us with different email addresses. Because I could tell, I mean, they did it one after the next. and hit it, and then their name was there, and you'd keep going. You know, you'd expect only to see 6 cards, and then some you'd see 12, but that only happened like 4 or 5 times. So.
Okay, good. More money being spent in Royal Oak.
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, it's $44,000, Sean, not 22.
Oh,
Director
yeah.
Yazbek.
Yes, I was just going to say this DDA has done amazingly wonderful things for the city of Royal Oak. Just a great job by this DDA.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion on the table. Second by Director Brake. Real quick, roll call vote. Director Brake.
Yes.
Director Yazbek.
Yes.
Director Rosbeck.
Yes.
Director Luan.
Yes.
Director Riley.
Yes.
Director London.
Yes.
Director Keith.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.